Welcome in, everyone, to Frogs and Friends. We have here with us Krash. I am the host here and made this channel here for all of us, friends and frogs alike. But we have here with us, we have Adam, we have Meta. What is going on, my guys?
It says
Well,
PSYOP smorgasbord.
yeah, we're still trying to figure that out.
Okay, all right. So yes, this is a channel here. We are going to be talking mainly financial, Bitcoin mainly, anything related Bitcoin, and obviously when we're talking Bitcoin, financial does come in to the equation as well. So guys, we were talking a little bit pre-show here, and what's kind of been what's been on your guys' mind as far as what Bitcoin's doing?
No, it's so hard to sum it up. That Trump obviously every time he talks, the market reacts, and so it's all fiat, magic essentially at this point. It always has been, but I mean the way that the markets move and the uncertainty, and I think a lot of people, unless they're in the know, are very confused. Obviously, somebody did really well, according to the headlines, on a pre uh, Trump truth. They made
Mhm.
an insane trade on oil, I believe it was, and something else. I can't remember the full details, but either way, there was some insider trading, or at least the appearance of it happening. Um, yeah, it's just nuts, man. I mean, that's the thing is like if you're really focused on price, then you probably are having a hard time right now. And unfortunately, some people that are living, you know, on their assets, it does affect your day to day life. But at the same time, it's like I always am reminding myself of the inevitable, right? But fiat is the illusion.
Mhm.
So I'm not quite sure what I'm reacting to when I react to the numbers changing.
Adam,
So I
what's
might,
kind of your thoughts here?
yeah. So maybe I'm going to take a more macro approach to this. It seems like we're going through a massive geopolitical shift. To me, it seems like whatever the old world order was is definitely being toppled, and a new one is being put
Mm,
in its place. Um, so I think that surprisingly hasn't really caused as many ripples, like one-off massive ripples, other than maybe two or three. It just seems to be this slow, steady decline as all of these changes are happening, right? But you know, I, I think Bitcoin is just like this coiled spring, and all this paper Bitcoin is really just kind of keeping it down right now because it is the escape hatch, right? So like uh, I found it really interesting that the stock market starts going down considerably because of the war, right? And then all of a sudden, quantum fudge shows up again.
mm.
Like it is the escape hatch. Like if you want to get out of there and stop losing fiat and just preserve, that's the only place you can go. And this never existed before, right?
Hmm.
So what do you do to keep people scared from basically fleeing the exits from the institutional system is scare everybody out of Bitcoin, right? But we all know that institutions are soaking that stuff up like crazy. And they do seem to be keeping that price right around where it's profitable for certain miners. It's not profitable for other miners. So then those miners are pivoting to, switching their compute for AI. So it's just it kind of seems like it's a big Bitcoin reset and like a restabilization for a new foundation. Because
Hmm.
really, if you really think about the origins of Bitcoin, it was all grassroots, right? It was completely just people like sick of this current system and they're just like there's got to be another way, right? So now it seems like uh they've taken all of that energy and now they're setting a new foundation to where there is a new floor,
Hmm.
and all those people that got in at like $300 a Bitcoin, either they're selling out or they're going to keep riding, and maybe they do, maybe they don't. Um, but from there, everyone's entry point is like 60 to 70,000, right? So
Yeah.
they're not just going to be selling off massive clips of Bitcoin go forward.
They
Well,
can lose. They can lose their if they were to. That's the problem. I think a lot of people are underestimating how fast the dollar itself, the Fed note can devalue.
Right.
So anybody making any large sales, let's say you got in real early and you want to, let's say you were walking away with 50 million or 100 million or something beyond that. I think that's a way bigger liability now, considering what you started with, Adam. Which, by the way, can I just can't comment real quick, Crash, because I don't want to cut you off
yeah,
there.
yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
The the what's clear because there's so much, you know, noise is that the entire system that we all grew up with from and really it's all energy, right? Because you've got petroleum. I don't know what you guys believe petroleum or oil is. I personally believe it's just organic concentrate. It's
Same.
like refined energy, right? It's a very concentrated form of energy, and I feel like the Strait of Hormuz is in the news now a lot. People are being sort of educated on what these things are as a
Mhm.
choke point. And who really knows what Iran is, right? Like you can go back to the history of Iran and the Shah and the CIA being involved with the regime change there and the
Hmm.
radical Islam sort of taking over. And if you look at photographs of Tehran from the 70s, I mean, it was pretty secular. It was almost like a Western country or European country.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you had this kind of eclipse come over, and if you know anything about the sort of powers that be in this world, you know how they've kind of infiltrated a lot of the religions, and they use religions to sort of control large groups of people. So who knows what Iran even is? But if we can believe what we're told, that entire region is a sort of kind of breaks the scarcity sort of paradigm that's been projected onto us for years that fossil fuels will run out, because they're
Right.
made
Yeah.
out of it's all
100%.
dinosaur bones, right? So that whole structure could be we could be just seeing a narrative overlay of that part of the world being maybe just disrupted, opened up, possibly. Um, Set up for a reset, whatever. And then you've got the financial side of it, which is their counterfeit energy part of the operation, which is the central banking, which is pretty much how they control. Those two things go hand in hand. The actual real world energy, what mostly runs the world today, uh, petroleum and petroleum based products and all the things that come with it. And then you've got the fiat sort of empire, the City of London, Vatican, trifecta, the House of Saud, and that whole all of the connections there. There's a lot there that I can't speak. I'm not the authority on. There's plenty of information, but those are all the things that are sort of on the chessboard right now, if you will. So it's really interesting to see that. I'm kind of wanted to key in on that point you made
Yeah.
earlier.
So, like, would you say Iran is like the final stronghold then over in Middle East as far as like us getting out of NATO and all that other
It,
bullshit?
it certainly does set up a nice narrative, right? I mean, I don't talk to very many people that aren't at least open-minded enough to talk about some of these topics. But when I do talk to people that are sort of more casual, I guess I don't really want to use the term normies, but let's just say less informed
Hmm.
about sort of some of the details of things. They haven't quite given up. There's still a sort of hope that they can trust the authorities, right? Tell them the truth. When you can get past that, a lot of people don't know what these things are. They don't even know how things work. They don't know that what money is. They think their money's in the bank. They don't understand. They don't even understand that their 401ks and all those. They don't understand how that works.
Yeah.
That those stock certificates are being held. They don't understand who's holding what. They don't. They just don't know how all this stuff works.
They don't even know what interest on a dollar even is. They don't know anything about monetary policy, you know? It's
Right.
crazy to me. Yeah.
And if you really think about it in basic terms, like that is their life force. That is literally the representation of their entire life and the energy that they've amassed.
Mhm.
And they don't know the most important details about it. So that there's kind of like a lesson built into the narrative layer of all this stuff that's happening. Um, but it's interesting because it's just like that stuff's all in the open. So you can like bring up the Strait of Hormuz and now people are talking about it. And it's kind of funny, not funny, but adorable, I guess
Mhm.
is a
So
nice way to say
I um to your point of the narrative seeding, right? So like what we don't realize, and this is kind of what Quast was talking about with G Money, which was the interwoven communications that have to happen at five different levels. So you have the high level, which is probably guys like us, right? Or actually, no, not even guys like us. The high level is probably the operators, the ones who are actually part of this
Mm-hmm.
this operation, right? And then you have those below them, probably more support. And then you have guys like us that are kind of like, we can see the patterns, right? The all of us with a touch of the tism, we're just like, we keep seeing these patterns. We're like, no, it seems like something's happening here. And then you have below that, someone who's like kind of an armchair general, like, oh, here's my understanding of the framing of the world. Um, and whatever Trump's doing is stupid because this was this and this has always been this and blah blah blah. And then you have the normie layer, right? So like Meta, what you're talking about is essentially you have to communicate to all these different levels in a very efficient manner, right? And so like we watched Trump's speech yesterday. I don't know if you guys watched it, but I
Yeah.
watched it and I was like, it's nothing new. But I'm
Yeah.
reading between the lines on a lot of that stuff though too. Like he's not talking about Iran. He's not just talking about Iran. He's talking about the entire system. So like the protection racket, right? So everyone's brain, like most of the normie brains and the armchair general brains have always been taught Iran is the problem. Iran is controlling the strait. They control energy. So we right? And Trump's just like, fuck you. I'm just gonna blow the shit out of that. So where's your boogeyman now? You know? Like
Yeah.
you can't keep playing these protection games anymore because I'm taking out all the boogeymen.
Yeah.
And no one understands like the implications of that, right? They don't understand like, hey, all this shit, like your economics, your trade, everything that's going on in every single nation has this same hierarchy that's been sitting over the top of it, skimming it forever.
Yeah.
And basically saying, and they're using boogeymen to do it. Like, oh, if you don't do this, it's cheaper if we just keep the status quo. Keep Iran happy. Don't blow up our ships.
Mm-hmm.
And they're the boogeymen.
Versus going in and taking them out.
They're
So
the
it's like,
boogeymen. That's the funny
right.
thing, though. Yeah, like that's coming out, a lot of that information about the 35 million a week that was being used to fund Hamas, and then a lot of the
Yeah,
other.
from freaking Netanyahu.
Yeah, and then you've got Al Nusra and all the different terrorist organizations that are essentially intel uh, creations, intel community creations. So that whole thing is becoming more mainstream. Um, yeah, I think it is funny that, because I'm not in the habit of defending the shit that Trump says, because it's not even appropriate to defend them, because it's completely questionable about the context, right? Like you said, he's always saying things, and it's like, who's he talking to right now, right?
Yeah,
Like,
who is he talking to? Who is the
right,
audience? And it's
yep.
different every time.
Yeah.
Or
And
he's
that's a,
talking to
that's a
multiple audiences at once, right?
right, right. It's
Yeah,
very hard, and I think this is why it breaks people's brains because they're taking it as a message to them.
yeah,
It's more like it's selfish. Like, oh, that's the message he gave to me, instead of thinking, well, maybe that's a message to multiple things, like our supposed allies or our enemies, or
Or just on
people
an
within
emotional
within
level.
the state. Yeah,
Yeah.
or on an emotional level. So
Mm-hmm.
like to me, I don't know. I guess when we started talking out, it just seems like there really is an operation to take down the old cabal. I mean, to me, it just seems quite obvious. And it's funny seeing all of these people that you once listened to and like got advice from, and you're like, wow, oh my God, they have TDS now. Well, that guy has TDS now. Because
yeah,
like I think it's the framing, right? Like so like I've seen this with myself, and it's a process to go through ego death to be like, I don't know shit.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I don't know a fucking thing, and like I need to stop talking in absolutes because there is no fucking absolutes. There's probably only like a handful of people who actually know what the fuck's going on,
Mm-hmm.
and we're all just along for the ride. And all we're trying to do is just make sure we can make it through this fucking transition. I mean, that's how I look at this. This is like we're going through a quote unquote tribulation to get to the other side to something brand new.
yeah.
And however we can make it, let's try and figure it out together.
it's reminiscent of the the stories about when slaves were being freed, that in some cases the door was left open but they stayed, right? And that they just, because they didn't know how they were going to eat, they didn't know. The unknown for them was more terrifying than staying a slave. And that this system, and then the way people have been indoctrinated, and the way our school system works and everything, all of the sort of societal feedback mechanisms that keep people in line and keep them, sort of staying normal, whatever that is, it is the thing that I kind of feel like that's where the fourth and the eighth psyop groups are kind of playing their roles. Because I do see this as sort of, and I think I've mentioned this to you guys before. I used the term demographic herding. I know I've talked to G about it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you don't fix the way people think, right? If you don't free their minds and free them from all of these completely, false systems, then what? How you they wouldn't even know what being saved from that was. They would think they might even attack you, right? If you were trying to take what they perceived as a threat, not realizing like, hey, no, we're all trying to help you. I don't think you can just explain it to them. By the way, the world is run by a death cult, and like it's like, what do but what's
How's the
funny is,
weather? By the way, we're
yeah,
ran by a death cult, and you're
but
paying taxes to pedophiles.
I'm
How are
seeing a
you?
lot more conversations about that stuff on like Jimmy Dore, because he has Kurt Metzger. Kurt Metzger gets into that stuff too, talks about like Scientology. You have Joe Rogan. People are starting to cross. I have somebody really close to me who's really dove deep on the cult stuff. And apologies, Krash, this is a roundabout way to get back to the topic, which is like what's going on, because it is all related. It's
It
like
is
the
all related.
system is
Yeah.
crumbling, but as far as the price go, I think the price is almost like a temperature gauge or some kind of a reading of like where we are in the system being sort of like replaced or reset or whatever you want to call it. Bitcoin is the only real way. I think energy and thermodynamics is the only honest and real way you can have a level playing field
It's
and
a
a new
substrate.
system. Yeah.
And
Yes.
even to the point of like Jack Mahler's like what he says, and correct me if I'm wrong, he like Bitcoin is the definition of a free market. And that kind of does go into price as well, no matter what you're kind of gauging it in, whether that's a dollar or energy or whatever the deal may be. It's the true reading of the free market. Is that kind of like to your point, meta a little bit?
Yeah. 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 I mean, it's a measurement of proof of work and the energy required to create or mine Bitcoin is the thing that kind of keeps it's the laws and the rules that are sort of comparable to the way that the natural world operates, right?
Hmm.
And that is the balance, right? The fiat is the abomination. It has always been throughout history. If you look at everything that's happened, all the wars, all the blood that's been shed, all the horrors of mankind, it's all always related back to, people like to say money is the root of all evil. It's like, no, it's the expression of money. It's the
Hmm.
it's the the denarius being silver, and then being some amalgamation of silver and a bunch of other metals by the fall of the empire, and that Rome couldn't even, they were literally trying to pay people, and people didn't want what they were offering to fight for them. And it's like, what if you can even, that's the other thing too, and anytime I cite history, I always think I have to say this disclaimer: I don't know if that's true. I don't know if any of that stuff that we've been told about history is, based on what we're seeing happening today, it could all just be a story that was told. but
Yeah.
but the point is that is the root. It's fiat, and counterfeit energy is the root of all evil.
Hmm. Right. Now, uh, switching slightly, but Adam, you brought up just when you were last talking, as far as the transition period, if you will. And I want to get your guys' take on that as far as how long do you think this transition is going to be to more of a Bitcoin standard and getting just totally everyone wanting to get out of the fiat? standard. But then again, to what Meta was just saying, you kind of have to have the herd want to do something to break out a little bit. So
Right.
where are you at? Like, because like a lot of people will say, oh, it could be done in 5 years, or it could be done in 50 years, or possibly longer. Like, where are you, Adam? Can you
So
kind of
my
go first
yeah,
there?
so I think it's two different major challenges we're facing right now. One is it's incredibly difficult to understand what Bitcoin is because you have to understand the way the world has been working, and then you have to understand what money is.
Hmm.
That's number one. Then number two, you have to understand the transition. What is the transition and what is the transition to, right? So like I don't know if this is true, but it seems to me that we're trying to push towards individual sovereignty. And if anyone really understands Bitcoin, they understand that Bitcoin is the very definition of sovereignty. So, so if you look at it through that lens, each nation has to have its own reserve for its own sovereignty, and then each person is going to have their own reserve for their own sovereignty, right?
Hmm.
So that's the, if I were to say, the transitional challenge, right? For me, I think the sovereignty challenge has to come first. So we have to first understand what sovereignty is before we can adopt a money that is sovereign. So in my I don't know why, but for some reason July 4th of this year sticks out to me as that is what everything is driving for. And I liken this to, I used to take back in the day project management. Project management was they would always use this example, which was the Super Bowl. Super Bowl happens once a year, happens on the same date every single year. The location changes, but the Super Bowl has to happen on that date, which means that you reverse engineer everything back from that date to when you start. So you start on day one to day 365, whenever that's going to be. So you have to plan everything out, everything that's moving all the way to the big game, to the big show. And it seems to me that Trump's been talking about this for the last couple of years, that
Hmm.
this July 4th is super important because it's the 250th year. And I think he even said we are reestablishing our sovereignty, or it's almost kind of like a new wedding vows back to the country. Like, hey, no, we care about our country. We don't care about your country. Like, we'll help you, but like, it's us first.
Hmm.
So for some reason, July 4th seems like the regaining of sovereignty. Now, after that, Bitcoin's a whole other question, right? So, like, okay, from a monetary perspective, that's a whole other thing that I don't think people are just going to understand by July 4th. I don't think.
Right, right.
I just think that the regaining of sovereignty is going to happen July 4th. Now, as far as the money, I'm not really sure. But what I am sure of is that propaganda can change people's minds so fucking quickly that they could send something out that basically helps them understand very fast that, hey, if you're not in this asset, then you're missing out. Like, it creates something of FOMO. So that's a wild card. Whatever that could be, it could be this most stupidest thing that we'd never even think of. Um, but those are the sequences of events in my mind that have to happen.
Could that instrument be stretch?
I,
Could it?
I mean, it doesn't it seem like it?
Yeah,
It's like
it
no
does.
one, because it is catching on. Like, I've even talked to normies about it, and they're like, "Oh, what? 11.5%?
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
where? What's that? What's that? What's that? What is it? STRC? What's the ticker?
it,
Yeah, I
it's
mean, people
it's
actually get interested.
it's crazy that
Yeah,
because obviously like that's not throwing Bitcoin in their face like up front. Like after like a year or two, they'll be like, "Oh yeah, it's backed by Bitcoin. Yeah, okay, Bitcoin. Yeah, yeah." It's like in the back of it's getting implanted in the back of their mind instead of
right.
up in front of their face. So like that could be a nice little shoehorn, if you will, for Bitcoin. and super safe, obviously, as we see with Stretch and even Seda to the point. You're have and even with Mars eventually, I think with what Metaplanet wants to do, their own uh version of Stretch. So like you're gonna have like three of these going at each
Yeah,
other here for
right.
Bitcoin. And then that just helps. Who doesn't want 11, 12, 13%?
Well, like I was telling you too, like now they're going to be competing against each other. So they'll be like, oh, I'm going to give you 11.5%. Well, screw you. I'm going to give them 12%. Well,
Yeah.
I'm going to give them 12.5%, and so on and
Let's
so forth.
let's talk about that because I actually think that you're right. I think that's what it is. And let's talk about what they're really competing with. They're competing with people that have no appetite for risk and who oftentimes are just invested in ETFs and the S&P, Nasdaq, and all the index funds. And here they have this thing that you could run Social Security with it. You could
Yeah.
run. I mean, the thing is like,
Yeah.
and all it's doing is it's funneling the value of the counterfeit fiat, and you could make it limitless. Really, I mean, it works pretty much. Again, it's it's funny because you get into this sort of what do the numbers mean? What does it translate to? Right? Like right now, I could say, well, $20 used to buy you a bag of groceries, and people are like, yeah, I remember that. That wasn't that long ago. And but so it's all still measured in fiat, but either way, that is, I think, unfortunately, and I'm sure you guys run into this all the time when you're having conversations about Bitcoin. It's so hard to communicate to people outside of the terms of fiat. They just
Hmm.
don't know what they even I can't. It's hard for me to measure value because everything, it's like I try to use sats, but it's always moving in fiat terms.
We're not living
And
in a sat world.
right. We're not living in a sat world exactly. So I think that is what it is, Crash, to your point. And STRC said these preferreds that are essentially vehicles for throttling Bitcoin's sort of appreciation in fiat terms. It's really just measuring the amount of liquidity in the system, honestly, and at different points. Or to some degree, I think it's not currently doing that because of the ETFs and all the paper Bitcoin, like has been speculated. I think there's some distortion there, but in the long run, that's what it's doing, and that is the portal. Like people get it, and then when you start explaining that in the idea of using a brokerage account and margin, most people don't know that how much of a life hack that is. Like
Yeah, I didn't know.
it's life changing once you figure out how it all works. You realize like, oh, I never have to worry about not paying bills again. There's no more due dates are not a problem. I mean, you can get a little bit upside down here and there, but if you've got 2 or 3 years for you to gain back the value of your underlying assets, then margin makes a lot of sense, right? Buy, borrow, die makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Yeah,
100%.
especially when you're behind the best asset ever known to man,
Yeah.
of mankind.
Well,
So,
so,
yeah.
well, I'm sorry, Crash. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to bring up here quickly about Stretch when you compare it to the yearly gain. So you're getting Stretch your money back 11.5%, give or take, a year. Returns, gains, and the average for the S&P 500, if you just do the same thing, invest the same amount in the S&P 500 fund and in the Stretch, you're going to be gaining more just in Stretch than you would all year in S&P 500 if you put the same amount in. That's to me, I don't know, because obviously everyone looks at S&P 500 and shit as like, oh yeah, that's safe. Everyone, that's the mandatory 401k fund,
And it's
right?
taxed at capital gains too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And,
that
and
well, yeah,
STRC is not.
yeah. We're
Yeah.
not even going into details. This is just
Right.
as simple as it gets right here. 10%, okay, for S&P 500 a year, or SETA, Stretch, whatever, 11+%. Like that's an automatic winner just based on that alone.
Tax deferred for 10 years.
How much simple does it? I mean, Sailor's been pitching Stretch like a motherfucker the last 6 months, and I understand. Like, yeah, we like his Bitcoin philosophy, like him talk about Bitcoin and all that stuff. But man, it might be one of these pivotal instruments
Yeah.
to
He
help
said it. It's the
move this
iPhone,
Yeah,
along.
he has said it.
the
Yeah.
iPhone moment. It's the
Yeah.
iPhone moment. Yeah.
Hmm.
100%.
Yep. All right. Yeah.
So,
Go.
so
Go
this
ahead.
is the challenge, right? So this is the challenge. So you have the Bitcoin purists, and I
Hmm.
am a purist. I love Bitcoin.
Right.
Like it makes sense. This is what has to happen. But then there's that group has a hard time understanding that you have to inject this into the current system. It
Hmm.
has to be injected. It's not like everyone's just going to eject out of the current system. It has
Yeah.
to be there for them to be able to like transition out of the system. And
Right.
Bitcoin itself, again, the two big problems you have to understand what the hell money is, one, and two, you have to understand geopolitics to understand why it's even here in the first place.
Yeah. It,
So
that
that's why
goes.
people hate it so much. It's
Yeah,
just like
and that kind of
because
goes
it
to the
breaks their
point.
brains.
Yeah, that goes to the point of the transition question, though. The transition period question. Yeah, stretch in 50 years or whatever it takes to go to a full Bitcoin standard isn't probably going to be that big of a deal anymore, unless they want to pay him sats or whatever, which is cool. But this is like the transition instrument here. Like, yeah, to Sailor and your
Well, so
guys'
here,
point with the iPhone moment, so, God.
so here's the problem. So here's the problem, right? So like you have banks that are fighting this. Number one, because they're like, we can't lose our depositors.
Hmm.
We can't lose our depositors to someone who's going to now go into a brokerage account and start buying STRC. That's one problem. So now they're fighting us tooth and nail, and that's what is that? The Clarity Act. That's what we're waiting to find out what the hell they come up with, right?
We're supposed
But
to
then
be
you
hearing
have
something about that today, right? Or is it
I
tomorrow?
don't I saw some 48-hour post like 48 hours ago, so maybe.
But we've seen a March 1st post though too. So,
Yeah, so
you know,
like
Hmm.
but here's the other problem is a lot of people don't invest and they don't understand the stock market. They
right.
like maybe if they have a job, they have a 401k that they know nothing about, right? But you are seeing the youth are straight up like going at Robin Hood. They're like, okay, like I've even got my daughter's boyfriend who got a job and he set up a brokerage account.
Mhm.
He's actually investing, and like because I was telling him, I'm like, dude, you can't just sit on this money. I mean, you're making a little bit of money as it is right now. Just go put that to work for yourself. And I think a lot of that education is already happening because of Robinhood.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
So I think those convergences, I mean, they're already happening, right? Like those, they're already marching together towards each other. So I think it's just a matter of time before it just merges, right? And
Mhm.
oh, another huge thing, and I don't know if you saw this, was Scott Bissent has started the a new weekly or monthly program where he's talking about financial literacy every month.
Oh,
Interesting.
okay. No.
Yeah, which was crazy because it was the day Trump's having his speech about what's going on with Iran and talking about how this is an investment for the future, for our future generations. Scott Bissent queued up, boom, he's like financial literacy, we're going to teach you how to invest and blah blah. Like, dude, they're already doing this shit, right? Now it's just a matter of like the market really being able to catch up with the rails. Like, how do we how do all the pipelines connect up, right? Like that's what I feel like we're already converging, and it's just a matter of like how do we get the pipelines to connect,
Mhm.
and then it's just there's your new system, and it's a matter of like okay, well set up that fire hose to start sending all that liquidity in here.
Yep. I agree. Anything on that meta you want to touch on?
Well, I just think the last couple weeks of STRC, speaking of sort of the flow of capital,
Mhm.
and there's even been speculation that maybe that was a couple months ago when Saylor was going around talking to all the big banks, and he's got a picture of him and Fong in front of the Morgan Stanley sign that maybe there is and has been some type of an arrangement made. Because even these bank, anybody that had like think about it, if you're a bank and you have depositors and you have all this capital to work with, and you want something that's, what do they have options wise to, where are they putting a lot of that capital? Treasuries?
Mhm.
Why would you not work out a deal where you can get that 11.5%? And then that's essentially really just opening another way, a portal to feed Bitcoin by taking more off the market, right? You create supply, more of a supply shock, which I still think I agree with Samson Mao on that. I think at some point when that happens, it's just going to be an explosive reaction because, the bid's just going to get driven up. I don't know when and how. I mean, I've been hearing it for the last 3 or 4 years that that's inevitably coming, but now I can actually see like, a lot of Adam Livingston's content lately has just been like, hey, if strategy keeps going at this pace, right?
Yeah.
And that's all that it is, right? It's just buying Bitcoin. It's the Bitcoin being removed from the market through the mechanism of STRC. There might be a week delay in the way that that capital gets there, but basically that capital is buying Bitcoin. So now, yeah, it's crazy, man. I think that that is going to be an interesting thing to watch happen over the next 12 to 18 months. I'm not seeing the effects of it yet, right? Because we still kind of keep teasing that there might not be the bottom might not be in yet in fiat terms, but I don't know, man. I don't see how it can keep doing what it's doing.
Yeah, especially if SATA is at par now. So like once again, we're having more than just Stretch buying Bitcoin. Now, obviously, SATA ain't buying as much as Sailor. So, but yeah, at least with Meta, at least we have an avenue, a window now as to how that plan can work. To Samson Mal's point, like, because like the last like year or so, we kind of were thinking, yeah, this might be like a chop up and not such like a god, so much of a god candle up. But with these corporations and companies are getting into the game, banks now getting into the game, but even with Stretch and SATA alone, that's an avenue to see that guy a reason for the God candle.
Well,
That's like iPhone and Android, right?
yeah,
So Sailor's iPhone,
Mm-hmm.
Android started up to be a competitor to iPhone.
Mm-hmm.
That's the secret sauce, right? They perform the same function. They just
yeah.
go about it in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
What I think also something that I haven't heard talked about, but think about like more traditional banking, like US Bank and Wells Fargo and all these others, right? They're making announcements. I haven't kept up with all of them because I don't really care what these institutions do. I mean, I'm not really interested in them. But Robinhood, SoFi, Fidelity, they already have this sort of combined investment slash banking solution where you can basically like you already have it within arm's reach to be in a essentially better version of a savings product, right? You don't have to be in a CD or a money market. You don't have to have your money locked up. You can, depending on market hours, be in or out of it, however you want to be. But essentially, people have access if they can buy STRC and you can do it on SoFi, you can do it in Schwab, you can do it
Oh, it's such a good point.
right? But so now, what's Chase going to do? What's U.S. Bank going to do? What's Wells Fargo going to do?
That
They
is
have to compete, right? And so maybe they just make a deal where because I was even thinking, why wouldn't they just white label STRC and sort of like convert all deposits and offer this, like maybe even offer an 8%. If you, I know people that would react to that differently because they were like, oh, I don't even want to have to think about buying preferred stock. I just want a higher
savings
rate on
account.
my savings account, right?
Yeah.
So they could be making who knows, there could be deals being made right now, or maybe there's something else going on. But at some point that, like there's things like that I think are kind of understated right now because people are just sort of starting to go, wait a second, what is it? How does it work? And we're not there yet, but I think it'll happen pretty rapidly.
I think didn't Sailor say something like that to where that he was trying to work with banks so that they
I,
become a
yeah,
depositor. They buy Strike at 11.5% yield, and then they give the customer an 8% yield. They pocket the difference, and essentially that money's liquid, like you said, because even if you go into like a money market account, a broker still has to sell that money market account before you get your funds.
yeah, yep,
And instead, this is 100% liquid, just like a regular savings account. Less, well, it may be considered more risky because it's not tied to the S&P or whatever it is, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
it's a it's a 17-year-old asset,
Yeah.
right?
yeah,
But either way, it doesn't matter. To your point, the biggest difference here is the liquidity because a money market only pays like five and a quarter percent, and that's just based on treasury, right?
I think it's not even that high right now.
Yeah, it's probably lower now, right?
Yeah.
And then if you get into like a brokerage account on top of everything, like you said, you can't just unwind that. You have to sit in that because you may be sitting on losses. Who freaking knows, right? So like that, like or what's the other one? The CD, right? So
Yeah.
CD, I think, is the best rate you can get from a bank, but you have to sit into that for like 5 years.
At
Or
least.
I
Well,
know there's various tiers, like
yeah.
1 year, 2 year, 3, whatever, but that it's still not liquid, right? So
Right.
it's a
No, there it
huge
locks your
problem.
capital up. You get the district, you get the, and you have to wait to 6 months, and then you get the lump sum for the time that it's
Right.
sat. Yeah, I have a buddy I'm actually talking to about that. He's not very technical, and he wants me to help him set up a Robinhood account because I'm like, dude, he's not working, so he's on disability, and so he's got his nest egg that he's been moving around, but he mostly keeps it in these CDs, and he kind of lives around this sort of clock, right? That he gets his
Oh,
distribution or
when
whatever.
they're available, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, hey man, I'm about to give you an upgrade, and I was talking to him about margin and stuff, and the fact that he can use, because he doesn't spend a lot, so I'm like, you can use 1,000 at 0%, and then you have this thing that you can just, I mean, it's basically going to give him twice as much as he's living on right now, and it
Yeah,
gives it to him monthly. So he's like, wow, man, that, yeah, sounds good. Um,
that's
there's a
great.
lot of people I think like that.
Yeah, it is. If you're willing to put the time into figuring this out, like it is a total life hack, man. Like it changes everything.
But to Meta's point, a lot of people aren't going to. Probably 80%
Well, that's
are
that's
not going to.
yeah,
And this is where the bank stepping in with that product will be. It'll sell itself. It's not even.
yeah.
Wow, that's
It'll keep
crazy.
them relevant.
So then it's a matter of, okay, banks being comfortable buying STRC. So what's the hurdle there? What do you guys think the hurdle is
I,
there?
I, I don't actually think there is one. Is going to make a big difference there, right? I
Hmm.
think that at
Right.
some point, I mean, obviously over the last couple of months, you're looking at the performance of it, and I think as we see more and more treasuries sort of being, I should say, capital moving out of treasuries, it's going to be looking for a place to live, and I think based on the way STRC's performed over the last 2 months, and all this chaos and turmoil is kind of like trial by fire, right? So I think that's it. And it just
Well,
comes
that's a
down
good
to
point.
it just comes down to the official sort of stamp of approval and the credit rating and the way the system works to give them the green light.
So, Meta, here's another theory I have. Are we just going through a stress test right now?
It's that's a good way to look at it. I mean, it could be. Um, I mean, I think the early days of Stretch were kind of the like real kind of test, right? When it dropped below 90. I don't know that we'll ever see that happen again.
Yeah, I don't know if we're gonna see it under 96 ever again.
Yeah, I think it's out. Yeah, I think that those days are over. I don't think it ever. Just because I think there's always. I mean, even have you guys seen the Forest Total built a site called STRC Live?
Yeah. Oh,
Oh
yeah.
yeah,
I watch it all the time. Yeah.
Okay, okay. I haven't been keeping up so much on Telegram, so I might have missed it. But yeah, that's a great indication. So today, the accumulation, it's 417 Bitcoin. I mean,
Oh,
like,
really? Just
yeah,
today?
yeah,
yeah,
Wow.
because it's been over 100 all day today. She like
yeah,
a
That's
stretch anyway.
crazy.
Stretch has been over 100 all day today. It's like what? And today's obviously the worst day. Everything MSTR, Strive, everything went down like 5+% at one point today. And here's Stretch. Yeah, we'll go
Chugging
from
along. Yeah.
102 cents down to $100. No big deal, you know.
Yeah.
God, it's amazing though. Like this is maybe even an iPhone moment is a little bit understating it.
yeah, I think that's fair. I think when we look back on it, this is going to be, part of the story that's told about how we broke out of the central banking regime and the fiat currency
Oh yeah,
Oh
100.
my God. Like, just think about this. And like, you guys probably already see this in your own visions of where this goes, but like, and I don't want to oversimplify this, but all of this buy pressure that eventually will soak up all this sell pressure, and then it's just buy pressure.
hmm
Hmm.
Dude, like, Like, so then if you think of Strike, right, and you think of Sailor's Gamble there, he's going to be just like raking it in hand over fist.
Yeah,
Hmm.
And all that's going to start doing is creating a higher yield. So like
possibly. Yeah.
so like he's only at like 11.5% right now, right?
Hmm.
So let's say the Kager, because it's just buy pressure and it's more like exiting BTC because of liquidity to buy my dream house or whatever it may be, right?
Hmm.
Uh, then the Kager really starts growing instead of this power law idea. Like I don't know about this power law idea, to be honest with you, but like once you have all that pressure and everyone understands that this is the scarcest asset on the planet, it is the only scarce asset on the planet, then that Kager just keeps going up. So then the yield will start going up as well because now they're going to have to compete with all these other treasury companies that are copying what he did in the first place.
Yeah,
It,
I'm
yeah.
wondering how that's going to play out. Actually, that's an interesting thought.
It could, but it also might not as much as you think it would, because then if Bitcoin doesn't have these cycles and stuff anymore, people are just going to probably go towards just getting Bitcoin. I don't know. That is a good
Well,
question. Like,
to dry, but that's going to dry up the liquidity for Sailor, for Assist, for all these other treasury companies to even have Bitcoin available.
Yeah,
yeah.
Is really
I don't
where
know
I'm
how.
going with
Yeah,
this. Like they have to get that stack now because they need that critical mass,
Yes. Yeah.
and then
their
everyone else
announcements.
is going to be fighting over the rest of it.
Their announcements will be like, "Strategy purchased another 0.25 Bitcoin today," and I mean
Yeah, right,
yeah,
right.
that's what it's going to be. You know what's interesting to kind of pull on that thread a little bit. Um, I'm sure you guys we've seen fiats fail, right, in like the last 5 years, right? Like look at was it Turkey
Iran
and
just failed.
yeah,
Blew out.
Iran's. Then you've got the Argentine peso, right? If you think about it, what it's interesting because people can't imagine that happening to the Fed note. But here's another interesting thing, and this is just kind of fun speculation. But what if part of the sovereignty sort of theme that you were talking about earlier, Adam? What if that is, you can truly not be sovereign unless you own your own energy, your own output. You're essentially your own labor, right?
Hmm.
What
Right.
if part of that story is a new treasury note that is somehow wired into some type of an STRC type paradigm or something that is backed by.
So funny you just said that because didn't the debt clock just say
Yes.
that very thing? Like
Well,
it was a dividend dollar backed by assets.
right. No, and that's the thing is this is not my thought, but I mean, what if that's part of the story?
No, no, no. I'm saying like I think like that's how I'm thinking of this. Like exactly how you're thinking, even before seeing that, right? But it's kind of cool seeing those narratives being thrown out there because it's almost like hints. Like this is
Yeah.
where we're going, guys. Like the
Breadcrumbs.
fact
Like,
breadcrumbs. Like just going back to Scott Bissent doing this financial literacy thing every month. Again, if you go back to when Trump entered office, he's like, "We're going to build a sovereign wealth fund." He's like, "I don't like Saudi Arabia has their own sovereign wealth fund. They don't have income tax. Like I don't know why the hell we don't have a sovereign wealth fund." And they've been building that shit since the beginning. So like, it is the breadcrumbs of like, "Hey, guess what? This is coming. Guess
mhm.
what? You know what I mean? Like that's how I'm taking it. I hope that's the breadcrumbs of it coming, but
Well, have you
it
have you
certainly
given much
seems that
thought
way.
to if there is, let's just say, some type of an event where, when these other currencies die, right, then, that's where Tether has a really strong use case in other countries because they're basically using Tether like we think of Bitcoin. They're just like, well, I
Mhm.
want
Right.
dollars. And
Well, because
everybody,
the
and they,
dollar is more valuable. Right.
yeah, people know what it is, and they're not afraid to take it because they feel like, okay, I can trust this. And I think maybe there's a story that's about to be told about the handoff from what they think of as the dollar, right? And the stablecoin our infrastructure is already there for it, but it's this new uh, version of the dollar that's a treasury dollar, or a treasury note, or whatever asset backed unit of account that's bound to the mining of Bitcoin, right? It's
Mhm.
not that it's
Yeah,
just Bitcoin, but it's a
it's
measurement of something real. right?
It's so weird, and it's just like everything else. The esoteric, the Illuminati. It's everything's upside down, right? So like the way they run things, it's upside down for us, right? It's right
Hmm.
side up for them. And basically, we're flipping that, and we're saying, okay, instead of paying interest on the debt, it is actually an asset that just continually appreciates and pays you. Because for them right now, that's what it is for them. It's the debt is the appreciating asset to them, but we all suffer. So
Yeah,
essentially, it's flipping the pyramid and saying, well, no, this just always goes up because it's scarce. And there is no debt. It's just paying you.
yeah,
Hmm. Yeah.
And and essentially that is the core reactor, right? This is what Sailor says. I mean, that is the Bitcoin reactor. And it's all these other products around it to basically get its tentacles into the current system and suck all that liquidity out and just heat that reactor core up more and more and more. And it just won't end.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe like 30 years from now when like it's already kind of like its own sun, and everything else
Hmm.
revolves around it. Maybe then power law kicks in and like, yeah, it's only a 3% CAGR every year. But that is all going to be directly tied to energy, right? Like, so what are we producing? And
Right.
everything that we're producing requires energy. So that all that energy is going to have to keep going into that sun. So it's almost like it's a vortex just sucking everything in.
Like
well,
it's a variable 3%, you know. I to your point, like it
But at three,
depending on our input, our
right.
energy.
But think
Mm.
about what 3% is going to be worth 3 years from now, post scarcity, when everything is free,
Yeah.
yeah,
essentially. Yeah, dude. It's like, I don't know how anybody can really wrap their brain around it because they just haven't lived in that. They weren't educated from cradle up to even understand what a free market is
Hmm.
or the possibilities that are sitting in front of them right now. It's just
Yeah.
yeah.
doomerism, right?
It's
Like it's not.
it's an abundance paradigm as opposed to a scarcity paradigm, and it's really hard to even imagine what
It's
that might look
insane,
like.
right? Like I have a hard time thinking about it. Um, but I think it requires exactly what we were talking about in the beginning is you have to free your mind. You have to like free your mind of anything that you were taught, any of your preconceived notions. You have to literally shut that shit down and start rethinking everything
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah,
and try to keep a positive mindset.
exactly. And be okay with the wasted time that you did do. Like
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
like, fuck, I've been doing the wrong thing here for 30 years. Okay, better late than never at this point.
dude.
That's kind of how.
I feel so bad for the PhDs out there that spent a quarter of their life in school and
Hmm.
now it's completely worthless.
Yeah, you can
Shit,
already
that's gonna be a hard transition for those people.
yeah,
I
you can
hope they
already
have
see that
hobbies.
happening. You can see it literally happening every like week that goes by. You see another example of like, oh man, they're done. I like
Hmm.
the entire white collar world, all academia, all of it. It's over. It's just a matter of like how long is it going to take for it to really,
Well, think about this too. What it's also over because of that, the pretentiousness, the feeling of I am more valuable than the guy below me.
yeah,
Like
Hmm.
trust the experts.
they wanted
Yeah.
equality, right? Now you
Right.
got fucking equality. Like you're not smarter than anyone else. I mean, everyone has access to the most brilliant minds on the planet times a million. So now what is it? Like everyone has to figure out what is your unique purpose in this world versus your identity is your job or your
Yes.
job is your identity. And that is I think I think there's a whole fourth psychological like psyops group that's going to have to figure out how to deprogram people out of that shit.
Hmm.
Well, there's a lot of, people like worry about that, right? They think, oh man, people don't do so well. There's a lot of propaganda to keep people thinking in terms of like, I need to be productive. Now,
Right?
don't get me wrong, being productive, right? Like if I do a hard day's work, it's rewarding. It feels good. It's good. You
Mm-hmm.
sleep well. It's just good for your mind. So there's no denying that. But the question then becomes like, yeah, but do you remember when you were young and you just had days where, for me, it was, going and taking a dip in the pool, coming inside, making some Totino's pizza rolls, playing some Ninja Turtles on the NES,
Yeah,
and
100%.
like it just like we people will, I think, revert to just experiences, right? Like it's like being alive doesn't always have to be about like what do you do? It's like, I don't know, man. I mean, like it's a lot of pressure, right? I'm living. I mean,
Hmm.
what do you do? I do lots of things, but it just comes down to like, is it enough for you, right? So that story though, and I think there's still a lot of that psyop that's been in the Prussian school system and the way that we've been indoctrinated. It's just in people's minds, and they think, what would I do with my life without my job? It's like, how sad.
Yeah.
It's like you're just like a human machine. Like, well, you'd have to
Or a
figure it out.
slave.
Or a slave, right? Exactly, right. The gate is open, and it's going to be open for some people, and not everybody's going to be able to make the transition. But I mean, if you gave me limitless capabilities through AI and automation, my imagination could run away with it. I mean, I'm already seeing cool shit happening. I'm like, man, I want one of those. I saw a dude flying like a jet ski man like size drone on the coast. I think he was in California somewhere. A beautiful video. I actually probably can share that, but it's like stuff like that, like experiences, right? There's so much, and again, having to rethink, come up with like, how are we going to and actually invite that into our lives and change, and that's going to be kind of, I actually am looking forward to it. I think it's going to happen a lot sooner than people think it is too. I think just Tesla gives you that little glimpses here and there of what's possible. Just the FSD alone, right?
100%. 100%.
Imagine an FSD kind of like motorhome that you can live in, and that's your residence, or you just go wherever you.
Yes.
Yeah,
100%.
there's so
I,
much
I
to
would have
it.
I want to throw another kind of strange theory at you. What if COVID was to prepare us for that?
Mm.
It's interesting. I mean, there's so much bad shit that comes with COVID. It's hard to separate that out,
There's
but I mean, it
so
certainly
much bad shit.
it
But
did
that's
change a
when
lot.
people stop giving a fuck about work. I can tell you that. I mean,
Yeah.
as an employer, I can tell you that. Like,
Well, that
nobody
is
gave a
definitely
fuck.
a true statement. I can absolutely get on board with that.
Yeah, there could be good and bad with anything. COVID was certainly a test for something, and everyone always paints it into a doomerism corner, But Adam, to your point, that could there could have been some very valuable lessons at the same time. I mean,
I the only
a
reason I
lot of
say
people
that is
discovered Bitcoin during that time too.
someone I read a piece from somebody and I can't remember who it was, but it really kind of stuck with me. And what they were talking about was um, pre-war, so like a pre-war softening up of a country, right? So like they were basically talking about like you do these certain things to kind of soften up your targets before you strike. So it was more of like a doomer perspective of what COVID really was, right? So it
Hmm.
was like number one, make the people sick, right? So that they're weaker. And especially the United States, you want to make them weaker because they're all armed, right?
Yeah,
And then number two, they don't want to work anymore. So now they're just getting UBIs. So now their ambitions are knocked out. Their health is kind of knocked out along with it. And then I can't remember the third thing, but essentially it was like we were in a post um, what the hell is it called? It was like a post work society to where basically we're already getting ready for automation because I remember just talking about this. I'm like McDonald's, like I bet we're gonna see McDonald's just like automating all their shit. It's gonna be like idiocracy where you're ordering like Carl's Jr. through a fucking vending machine, like that kind of shit, right?
yeah.
And that's already kind of like happening, but to what we were just talking about, the psychological aspect of your identity is your job. I think that may have already been destroyed, except for those like high level, PhD types or corporate high level or middle management. Like those types of people are going to have a big problem with this. But to Elon's point, so Elon would talk about this too. He'd be like, dude, how is it that you have the laptop class and then you have everyone else that has to be in the factories making the machines and all that shit, right? Like it's not fair. Like so that was their impetus to bring everybody back. but nobody wants to go back, dude. Like everyone's just like, I mean, I'm speaking for myself, but and everyone around me, I like no one wants to be doing this shit anymore. They're so fucking tired of it.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
So maybe like to your point, Meta, it just happens fast. Like everyone's like, oh, thank fucking God. Like I don't have to do this shit anymore. My I can eat. I've got everything I need. Now I can work on myself, heal myself.
Mm-hmm.
I don't
Yeah.
know, man.
I could see that as being the COVID being the softening, at least for that. You know, uh, that's
Yeah,
interesting.
because
I never
before
thought of
that,
it
like,
like that.
because I think about prior to COVID, I was the most ambitious. Like, I want this, I want this, I want that, like everything, right? Like, I want to be above, this person, that person. I want to show them or whatever the fuck, whatever your drivers are to be ambitious to get to a certain level. After COVID, I didn't give a fuck. I was like, who gives a shit? Like, I
Yeah.
realized that like most people don't fucking think about anything really, and uh the like everything that I'm thinking of reasons to do what I'm doing don't exist. It's all in your own head.
Right.
Like you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So like
And then also how you said Bitcoin is the only a- scarce thing in the world other than your time. And that was
in
a
your time,
big
exactly. Yeah.
and then that was a big eye opener with COVID, I think, to a lot of people too, as far as their jobs. Like you waste most of your time, especially if it's something that you don't like doing. Like if it's not your purpose, it's certainly a waste of time. And I
Not
think,
only does it waste your time while you're there, it wastes your time when you get home because you're too tired to do anything else.
yeah,
Yeah. Well, think about I don't know if you guys have seen anything with some of this AI learning that some of these kids are going through, and they've been comparing them to kids that go through the public school system and how much faster they're learning and how much better they're testing. And it just kind of exposes that again, the way the system is designed, it's really about making, basically good employees. It's not about
100%.
yeah, so that whole narrative now, it's going to be hard because now more people are homeschooling. They're taking their kids out of the system because of all the political stuff, and they don't trust these experts, so-called experts anymore, and for good reason. So like that stuff, if it comes down to like again, basic thermodynamics, I can't help but apply this lens I have because I was trained in something called product management, and it's really pragmatic is the name of it, but it's all focused around getting to the root of the problem, right? And so and the reason is because if you don't understand the problem deeply, then you can't create a solution. And if you're not building solutions, what are you building, right?
right.
So
Hmm.
you look at this stuff and you can kind of see like AI at filling the role of an instructor or teacher or professor or whatever is
Yeah.
the perfect mechanism for accelerated learning. Um, if somebody has an ambition to do something, the limitation is really just what they know to ask for. That solution is already in play. So that whole mindset then changes. Like it's not just that, like what you were saying about COVID. I have another interesting. I've had conversations about it because there were, arguably people kind of took themselves out of the game. And you got to wonder, why did some people do that? Why I don't understand how some people were so invested in the essentially eliminating themselves. And it's like if you look back at it, it's like some kind of weird like I kind of feel like if you weren't able to see what it was, it's like kind of in a dark way. And I'm not saying this is what it was. I think it's an interesting thought to kind of tie back to your thought. It's kind of like it woke people up to the idea of being independent individual conscious beings, and it eliminated. I mean, if you were to look at it from like a programmatic standpoint, say we were in some kind of a simulated reality, it like cleaned the system up, as dark
Hmm.
as that sounds.
Yeah, that's
And
that's a
I
good
I
know
point.
I know it sounds dark, trust me, but
It's a dark world. Yeah,
well, so woke was born out of it too, right? So like
oh
the
no,
the
no,
root.
woke was around. I started studying the woke mind virus. It really started showing itself in 2013.
I
That's
was
when it
gonna say
really
early 2010s for I can
yeah.
remember. You
I
know?
mean, it was around well before that, but I mean, it started manifesting like the virtue signaling, the whole
Yeah,
phenomenon of
Yeah,
manifest. Like
psychosis
it really
warriors.
manifests itself right then and there.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Almost like that was like if somebody was too overcome by that mentality, that they would have really,
They went
again,
all in,
man.
all
Yeah,
in. Yeah,
yep. I mean,
yeah,
like the tattoos, the Johnson and Johnson tattoos and the Pfizer tattoos, like that shit.
yeah. Fuck, man.
I mean, I when I saw that happening, I knew exactly what it was, and I was like, "Oh, you stupid son of a bitch! Like, what are
that
you
Yeah,
doing?"
that is crazy that that is almost 15 years ago now. Because I remember because I was always like, yeah, I mean, we're awake. That was always like our term, we're awake. And then I started hearing like the woke term being
yeah. It switched.
starting to
It
creep in
switched.
like in Facebook and shit. And I was like, all right, that makes sense. But then when I started like figuring out what was behind it, I'm like, whoa, 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 this is not nearly what awake means, an awakening means, so. Yeah. Oh my God. 15 years? Holy shit.
Yeah.
It's, I mean, it definitely really took hold in the early 2000s, but I mean, really, you're going back to, I mean, it's essentially all the same ideas that came out of Frankfurt,
Yeah.
the intersectionality movement,
Hmm.
all of it. I mean, it is exactly what it's always been. Essentially, it's the same formula for cults, same exact formula.
Yeah.
So think
Um,
about this, right? So so you had COVID, then you had the opposite Operation Warp Speed, right? So what the fuck was Warp Speed really? Because
well,
like it seemed like like we were just talking about how woke manifested itself, like that cult really came out. So it wasn't only just a cult of intersectionality, but it was also a cult of do what you're told.
Hmm.
So that converged, and it was super heavy programming, man. And we all lived it. I was definitely fighting against it at every fucking turn, and I could just tell you, I've never felt so much pressure in my life.
Hmm.
Um, but I still fought it all the way through. But only certain people could mentally make it through that without like succumbing to it, right? So then you have Operation Warp Speed, that was essentially, oh hey, we're getting life-saving medication to everybody, or like
Things
I've
back
heard,
to normal,
yeah. But then I heard this theory that kind of like shook my whole understanding of that, which was maybe that was the what was that fucking variant that got released, the Omicron variant,
Omicron, the
that all of a sudden
Omicron,
basically killed the teeth of COVID.
yeah,
So if you
Omicron.
got that shit, then basically you're immune to any other variant go forward, right?
Hmm.
So that got me thinking. I'm like, that's a very good possibility, right? Because how do you fight biological warfare with biological warfare, right? So like now, if you take the post-scarcity world that we're walking into, to where your employment is not necessary for your flourishment, dude, like that is too that was ground, right? That was really the big war right then and there, and then the public chose after that, like, nope, all right, fuck it, throw the chips to the wind, we're going with Trump, let's go, fuck it.
Hmm.
Like,
Well,
because that was a consensus, that was a global consensus, that wasn't just the United States, that was two different ideologues going against each other, and we said, nope, we're going with, let's take the hard road, fuck it, we're throw the chips where we may.
so
Hmm.
the variant you're talking about was Omicron, and I
Right.
remember hearing I can't remember Malone, right, talking about it on the news, and he referred to it as a live attenuated vaccine virus. And
Oh yeah, right.
then there was an article floating around that time, and apologies, this is a while back, but I was really tapped into this stuff when it was happening. There was it was a that there was a vaccine developed by the military,
Yeah. I remember
and
that.
that the question would be, under what circumstances would it be acceptable for the military to release something light on the general population unless the stakes were that high? And that is entirely possible. I've certainly myself
Yeah.
and others that I've talked to have speculated about that, what Warp Speed really was. There's also some interesting, if I remember correctly, the Warp Speed had a logo, it had some interesting.
Oh shit! I wonder if I can find
anomalies
that.
in it. Um, but that was when everybody was thinking the 10 days of darkness. There was a lot of retardation.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Right.
Uh,
Stay in your
I mean,
homes.
I'll
The
admit,
military's gonna be on the streets. Yeah.
I was date fagging with the best of them, and I thought, man, this got to be ending soon. I had no idea. And the thing is, how could you ever be prepared for what would be happening over the following 5-6 years that we've been living through? There's no way. Right there, you go. I mean, that looks like a
Holy fuck!
right?
Look at that.
Yeah. Um, so the I guess the bigger thing really comes down to, and then you the opening of Badlands um, Devolution Power Hour, the Stephen Miller clip, uh, going through the most complex military operations and the whole
Right,
devolution
right, right,
narrative,
right.
all of it. It's entirely possible, this whole thing, if the stakes were high enough, right? And I was just talking to some people that are less, acclimated to believe this sort of thing, but they were really interested in what I was saying. I was like, you have to appreciate who the enemy is, right? You can't know who the good guys and bad guys are until you know who the bad guys are, and the bad guys are the current regime of the world, right?
Right,
And it's hard to draw lines. Everybody thinks in terms of nation states. If they can't put it in a nation state, then it's like they can't exist. It's like, yeah,
right,
but
right, right.
I think we're dealing with like some kind of satanic cobra from like GI Joe, right? like or like the James Bond, what were they called, Spectre, right? It's something more like that. So you
Oh my
sort of have
god!
to,
I need to
yeah,
add another thing to this. So globalization was the big thing going on at that point in time, right? Like
right,
we
right,
were
right.
already
That's
outsourcing everything, and then they were like, "Oh fuck! Because of COVID, we don't have 90% of our precursors for fucking medications. We don't have this. We don't have that." So
Mm-hmm.
everyone started reshoring.
yep.
Yeah.
And what did
Yeah.
we just see happen in the Iran war narrative, right? A certain
Well,
factory
that's what I
factory
mean, right? Now it's
blown
leading
up,
up to oil,
right?
like the lifeblood of everything. No,
Right.
fuck it. We're not relying on that shit anymore either.
Did you guys hear about that factory in Israel that was supposedly blown up that made a certain type of hormone?
No.
Uh
I
oh, it was
heard
a
that
whole.
they
I,
blown
I
something up.
saw pharmaceutical something,
Yeah,
but I didn't know what it was.
it was. Supposedly it was there were drugs that were used for transgender surgeries and things like that. So I don't
Holy
know
shit!
the full details of it, so I don't want to speculate too much. But I kind of thought, oh, that's interesting because there's a lot of stuff being blown up in that part of the world right now, if we can believe what we're seeing, right? But it just
Well,
makes
yeah,
just
kind of,
makes questions.
in the same correlation as when the Russia-Ukraine started,
Yeah.
how Russia was
Right?
taking out biolabs and shit in
Oh yeah,
Ukraine.
Yep.
that was a real kind of like subdued kind of backstory that was happening, and it's like, wow, that's really interesting, and that because of the relationships between Ukraine and
Hmm.
uh, modern day Israel, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's it's definitely interesting, and then there was the whole weird thing around the invisible enemy, right? Do you remember all the
Oh
time?
my, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, you can't go through COVID without hearing the invisible enemy and not
Wait, wait, wait,
knowing.
wait, wait. Go hit me. Invisible enemy. I
oh,
probably
and
know what it
Trump
is, but
Trump used that term a lot. He talked about how we were fighting the invisible enemy, and it was just
oh
such
yeah,
a
yeah.
weird
Okay, yeah,
choice of
yeah.
language. Yeah, and then and
There was a
everybody.
lot of that kind of shit back then, like
Yep.
I mean, and still is today, but like, yeah, that was very prevalent. Like if you had like ears to hear or like eyes to see, and you kind of you could get a whiff of that. You get a whiff of the story that Trump or whoever is trying to tell you outside of the general spoken word, if you will, of what they were talking about.
Like we've been in a silent, quiet war well before COVID. I think COVID was when it actually became a hot war,
Okay.
and now we're in like the final structural phase of it.
Mm.
And like you said, like you guys are saying too, it's like everything. The baseline substrate is energy, and that's the last fucking thing we're doing. And we're also Israel for last a little bit on this one too.
Hmm.
It seems like to me. And this is just drawing from Q drops. And like the thing is like even during COVID, I was not really convinced Q on anything really. I was just like, huh, interesting touch points, and then all of a sudden, like all those like what you were talking about, Crash, was like reading between the lines of everything that Trump's saying.
Hmm.
It all really started lining up, bro. It's like
Yeah,
those were the missing pieces between the lines to help you understand the story, which is so hard to like explain to people because like uh you have to have maybe you have to have a different kind of mind maybe to understand this. I'm not saying that you're smarter than anyone else. I'm just saying like I think you have to have a mind that is very pattern oriented
that
because you
and
have two patterns running together.
it's that, but I think a big piece of it is the ego as well. I think that's a big piece of that, like to be told that you were lied to all your life, or
Right.
like it's not nothing is what it seems. Like an open mind. That's kind of really what the crux of it is, I think.
That's
I agree with you.
absolutely
I agree with
that's
you.
absolutely true, Crash. Ego isn't even the thing about ego is, it's a survival mechanism, right? But what happens is when you're indoctrinated, and that's why this type of indoctrination or systems works so well, is it creates that sort of, uh, essentially it feeds a sort of a mechanism for narcissism. That's why you have so many sociopaths and narcissists, but they're not actually conscious as fully conscious. I mean, there is some degree of consciousness there, but they're mostly prompt engineered.
Hmm.
Most human beings that
Yeah.
can't come to that kind of realization that, like, wait a second, why did I do that? Right. I'm seeing I've in my circle exposure to somebody who's seeing a lot of people that are coming out and saying, I regret getting the vaccines. I think that was like a very big part of that. It was like the culmination of that sort of like they were on autopilot. They just did what they thought they needed to do because everybody was doing it.
Yep.
Then I can speak from my own experience. There were people that were like, wait a second. And it's kind of like this level of situational awareness that only comes with being fully conscious or having a soul, or some would even say being connected to some degree of, source or God, right? Like there's this, I'm not going to outsource my critical thought to another person, right? Like I never saw Fauci as an expert that I should listen to. I saw him as a creepy little fucking elf shelf.
100%.
Um, but that's what I think. I think ego is and that's what ego is, and it really does get it. It impedes people's ability. Like in order to be truly human, you have to embrace. Chris Paul says this, and I love it. This statement he said is the joy of having been wrong.
Mm.
Right? Like you're always looking to improve. What's the fastest way to improve? You start with yourself. Did you make a mistake? Don't blame anybody. What did you do?
Right.
How did you end up in the mess you're in? What were the steps that you got there? That immediately gives you self empower
Mm.
because you're always looking for like what mistakes you made. You're always open to improving. And when you have an ego that doesn't allow that, it really impedes your ability. I know people in their 80s that still can't. They
Yeah,
still
I
are.
do too, man.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they
they're
haven't
just
learned.
stuck.
They haven't learned that one valuable life lesson. I think if you got that one, if you're equipped with that one basic understanding of the human condition, you're in a much better situation.
Yeah. That's well
So,
said.
yeah, very well said. So that's why maybe accountability. Let's talk about that for a second. So, like, everybody wants arrests, right?
Hmm.
Of course, I do too. But, like, where do we go from there? Like, thinking from this framework, right? So, like, everyone's just operating on autopilot on what they've been told. They've never really faced accountability, right? And I'm talking on the smaller spectrum, the micro spectrum of everyone. You're at your job, you make mistakes, you blame someone else, blah blah blah. You just don't take accountability, right? So on the macro scale of the framers and the controllers of the system that we've been living in, do you feel like they need accountability? Do you think that the only way we go forward is accountability? Because accountability seems like adjacent to the ego, right? Like I want to see that fucker fail because he did this to me. and that's an ego thing, right? So like, where do we go from there? Because is that really the point?
Yeah, I don't think so. I stopped. I wanted accountability too, but it's like clearly it's not going to give us what we want. And even if it did, who's to say it's just not going to be another Nuremberg? I mean, Nuremberg was just a
Yeah.
Right.
ritual. It wasn't. It didn't. A lot of the up top officers, supposedly, whatever you believe about World War II, but that narrative, they went on to hold high positions in the UN. You
Hmm.
know, so
Right.
I mean,
So how the so my point here is, how do you get the crowd that's like, oh, the weed media crowd? Jesus, if you walk into those fucking conversations, it's all like, arrest him, he needs to be thrown in jail, blah blah blah, he needs to be executed, treason, blah 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 blah. Like, how do you deprogram those people? Because if you look back when Trump, I think he was campaigning, he's like, my retribution is success,
Hmm.
right? It's just success. Like, I'm going to show you that their ideals were fucking stupid,
Hmm.
and my idea is way more beneficial for you. All I have to do is show you success. Like, that is their own punishment. Like, that is a punishment to them. That is basically killing their fucking ego. Like, they thought they were omnipotent. They were the experts. They knew how everything had to run. No, I'm coming in here. I'm a bombastic, narcissistic asshole, and everybody fucking hates me. And here's my idea. And it just totally destroyed your entire theory.
Yeah. I.
Like, and I think that's likely going to be the outcome. Unfortunately, for a lot of people,
Hmm.
they're going to realize that, oh no, this wasn't about a witch hunt to go get all these people that did this shit to us. It's just, I'm bringing in a new system to where these fuckers can't operate anymore.
Exactly. Yeah. Obviously it would be cool, like with the rest of you guys, like that would be cool to see that, and we all wanted that at one point. But that it's like a band-aid for a broken arm or some disease, like it.
Right.
Yeah, it's cool in the moment, but that's not going to change anything 50, 100 years from now. We could go
yeah,
back to the
it's
same
exact.
thing.
It's a symptom.
And yeah,
It's a
yeah, exactly.
Right.
And
Right.
and I think we could even push back that even further, Adam, to as far as accountability, that kind of leads us to another crux of the operation is Bitcoin. Because what is
Yeah,
it like?
dude,
Because yeah,
exactly.
and then we're dealing with the Bitcoin cycles. Like everyone that bought Bitcoin less than what 3 years ago or whatever is dealing with the price, the bear price. So like
That's right.
that's a death too, because you thought, oh, this is going to go up forever and ever and ever. Which yeah,
Exactly,
at
dude.
the end of the day, you're right. But if you're here today, that's not right. Like so you have
This
to.
isn't what we wanted,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
it's what
and
you needed.
yeah, I don't know. But yeah, I think it wouldn't have solved any long-term problems. Sure, it would have helped, but what are we doing? 5, 10 years from now? Oh, someone else snuck in and, we let our guard down once again, and there you go.
Yeah, oops. Oh, you fooled me again. Let's just run that out. One, you have to understand what the hell money is. Two, you have to understand what's going on geopolitically. Three, you have to understand that you have to have an ego death, which
Hmm.
means four, you have to understand that everything you know is a lie.
Hmm.
Five, you have to understand that your job does not embrace who you are. It's not a container. And six, you have to understand how you move forward in the post scarcity world,
And
and
seven,
then bring that back to Bitcoin.
and seven, buy some stretch while you're at it too, to survive the
Right, to get
transition.
out of it.
Well, Bitcoin has a lot of the remedies for all of those things built right into it, doesn't it?
Exactly. Yeah. And
It
that's why it's
does.
so important. It's it's amazing. It opens up so many different avenues, so many different theories, and it's crazy. Like we could talk about this literally all day, but I don't know.
Whoa.
It's what
What? Uh, I'm sorry. It's just sparking so many things. So
it
like,
is.
okay, so like right now, like, what is the main focus? Space, right?
Yeah.
It's not
So,
terrestrial anymore. It's space.
or are we talking cyberspace? Or it can double meanings. Could it mean more than one thing?
But space means we're no longer landlocked. which means we have no reason to fight each other.
Yeah.
Do you
Yeah,
understand? Like
that's
the,
a
the
very
the
interesting thought.
defense, the defense piece of this that the entire world is operated on. If space becomes easy to travel to and to homestead or whatever,
Hmm.
or start getting resources from there, why wouldn't we all be focusing our energy on the limitless possibilities of space? Like so all of these paradigms that we've all been used to are being one by one systematically fucking destroyed.
Hmm.
So there is still only one scarce asset, and that's Bitcoin.
And time.
And time. That's it. And time may not even be a scarce asset anymore, by the way.
Well, yeah, with
With the
AI now.
freaking yeah, with AI and
Yeah.
biologics going on right now. I mean,
Well, here
dude.
I'll really break your brains. What we talked about last time, the three of us were on a call, was Dan Goler's research in the code in the laser,
Hmm.
suggesting that we may already
Oh
be in
yeah.
that, maybe the laser is reading
Oh yeah.
reality, or reading it like a disc, like a CD or a record, right? So that time is just
Yeah.
it's an illusion, right?
Concept.
It's a consciousness sort of focus mechanism, right?
Yeah.
So it has to play out in this thing we call linear time. So just a little,
Food
cons-
for thought.
consider.
And Bitcoin is still scarce. There is no changing that fact.
It
Period.
exists. It exists outside of our as a concept. It exists outside of all of the dimensions that we typically can wrap our heads around.
Right. And
Think
everything
about that.
else is non
It.
scarce.
Yep.
Yeah, and that kind of really. I was gonna bring this up a little bit earlier, but that kind of really touched on it. Meta, as far as is Bitcoin like a second coming kind of deal? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
Yeah.
does it change the Book of Revelation now? Like what exactly are we that opens up so much. Like that's what I've been really like focused on like the last like 6 months or so. Like blockchain, you chain Satan and such like that. Like
Yeah.
it's so crazy. Like how much of a importance this there's I don't even think there's a term that you could describe the importance of Bitcoin, once you really start to understand it. And
Isn't
it's
it
just
truth?
yeah, yeah.
Truth. Like energy.
And as if I remember correctly, uh Christ never said how he would return, whether it be
Nope.
physically or spiritual or whatever. He never explained exactly. So could that be this immaculate conception of Bitcoin?
Well, think about everything in the what we think of as reality, 3D, right? Like what
Hmm.
we're sharing right now. Obviously, we're not. It's ironic because we're doing this all right through some
Yeah,
digital
yeah,
Right.
data
through
being
space.
streamed, right? But the idea is like everything that you just talked about. Uh, Jesus as the figure and as a concept. Um, and people might get offended by even suggesting that, but it's like, but that's just 3D. Those are because they're thinking in 3D terms. It's
Hmm.
so much more than that because God is so much more than that. The concept of it.
All right.
And real quick, and I know you want to wrap things up, Crash, but I saw a clip of Danny Goler the other day, and he was talking about somebody asked him like, "Have you ever gone to the point at which you're basically asking the question, right? Like, what is this? What is the point?"
Hmm.
And the idea that he kind of stated in much more articulate terms than I'm about to state, this is just my interpretation of what he said, was if you are this omnipotent force in that you are all that is and ever was, that is an incredibly lonely prospect.
Yeah.
And that this experience we're having where we're all separate consciousness and individual souls and having our own experiences is a respite from that eternal loneliness. And it was like, whoa, man. Like
Yeah.
that
That
shit hit me like a ton of bricks. Like it's like daydreaming, right? Like if you're in a
Hmm.
really bad situation, you just kind of like go to another place. You're on a beach somewhere in a hammock, and the sun's on your. It's like, what if that is what this is? And that's what he suggested. He's like, and then he wrapped it up by saying this. He's like, just don't worry about it. Live your life. And I was like, that's good advice.
Yeah. Yeah, because yeah, when you think of it and you think it all ends here, like after your meat suit, like that is very like what do you even like work for? Like what do you even do? Like why even try to better yourself? Just on a basic level like that. Like it is, to your point, very loneliness. Like very lonely, you
If you
know.
focus on what's in the moment and you live in the moment as much as possible, I think that ultimately is the point, right?
Hmm.
I know obviously we have to plan to some degree. A lot of that times that's what's driving people to even start to look into Bitcoin is they're
Hmm.
thinking about the future and they're thinking about, but as long as you're using your time and you're actually living and you're not, living in the past or focusing too much on the future, that I just think that's the main thing you have to focus on. You have to kind of chain yourself to just experiencing things as
Hmm.
they come at you, like that's the best you can do.
Yeah. Yeah, good point.
So heaven and hell could be here on earth
Well,
in the
yeah.
flesh, right?
Yeah,
It's all
I
depends on you.
yeah, I think some people I look at them and I'm like, man, you must be in hell. Like you look
Right.
like you're in hell. Like you look like you're suffering. So
Already there. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Damn. That's a heavy way to end here, boys. Any final thoughts though? You guys want to wrap up on?
nice. Yeah, I'll keep it real brief. I just think like everything we're seeing right now, I honestly it's hard not to, because the numbers they do affect our lives and I'm not gonna, pretend like they don't, like Adam said earlier. We don't live in a sat based reality yet, even though you can make an argument we actually do. It just hasn't been realized. And consensus is how we project reality and share reality with each other. So unless there's a consensus about what truly is valuable, that's still going to be the world we live in. But I'd say that it's all everything. I remember, and you can look back at the price chart. I've been in Bitcoin since 2017, early 2017. And I remember the 3-digit days.
Hmm.
And I look at what I see now and I'm like, they're just the 5-digit days. People will be talking about things during the 7-digit days.
Yep.
And then you got to start asking the question, like, what does that even mean? Right? What is $1 million anyway? It's certainly not what $1 million was 10 years ago. Very different things.
Hmm.
So what are we talking about? We're talking about basically an unmeasurable, like it. How do you have consensus on something that has a changing definition?
Right.
And for one of the most important things, i.e., the mechanism of value or assigning value. So I'd say don't worry about the grind. It's kind of like April of last year, like I kind of feel like we're in that kind of a thing right now. And
Yeah. Wasn't
when things,
that Liberation Day? Just
yeah, yeah,
exactly a year
yep,
ago, I think. Right?
yep.
Yeah.
It's very, very similar to that. And it's just like
Fuck.
time melts away, but like, man, it just to remind everybody, like, yeah, it's always hard in the moment when things aren't going really well or they seem like they're not going well from an undefined value
Mhm.
perspective, but
Yeah.
it always passes. It has to. It can't do anything but pass.
Yeah.
That's it.
Good deal. Good deal, man. Yes. If you would have asked me when the Liberation Day was, I would have probably told you like 6 months ago. Fucking a year ago. That's
Yeah,
it's
it's
going
crazy.
fast, man. Adam, please tell me your final thought.
Um, I would say I think regardless of our own individuality, I think we all still have a collective consciousness. And if we can start helping the collective consciousness out of the fear mindset into a more positive, optimistic mindset of the future, of this massive change that's taking place right now, I think we're going to do a huge service to humanity. Even our small, tiny part here. Like
Mhm.
I really like Diamantis, Kotler, the whole Moonshots crew, because that is essentially what they're trying to focus on is is right now, because we are transitioning into a technical free market, nothing's written. The things that get written are the stories that you tell, like stories that you can tell of something that you can think of that can happen because there are no longer restrictions.
Mm-hmm.
And Bitcoin represents that sovereignty to be able to tell that story and move forward. Because to me, Bitcoin's not money.
Yeah.
It is the token of sovereignty. Like, hey, I have proof that I am sovereign. Period.
Mm-hmm.
And now from there, you tell your own story.
Good.
And I think that's what we're up. That's what we're in for here, which is beautiful.
Awesome. Yeah, that kind of was gonna lead into what I was kind of thinking too. Like Bitcoin's more than just money. Even we touched on it, like spirituality as well. Like it's all encompassing a little bit, and it's just yeah, the price obviously. But like us in our groups, we don't really look at price. Like that ain't that big of a deal to us. Sure, it does suck, when we are leaning on if anyone's leaning on margin or anything like that. But like we don't 100 times ourselves lever. We don't 100 times lever ourselves either. So like it's not that big a deal for us. But yeah, it sucks. But at the end of the day, we know what Bitcoin is, and it is way more than money. So how can you even put a price on it? And it kind of comes back to what we let talked about spirituality, time, everything, weapon, possibly. Just awesome. You guys summed it up beautifully. That's pretty much all I had to say as well. And yeah, this has been a great first episode, I would say. This has been fun.
Absolutely.
And we will certainly be getting more frogs and friends, more guests on as well. We gotta. We didn't even really talk about AI as much either. Like the
Next episode, man.
yeah,
Next
the
episode.
topics are endless when it comes to this. But yeah, guys, thank you so much for coming on here and just shooting the shit all about Bitcoin.
Thanks, brother.
Yes, you
Thanks,
Yeah,
guys.
that was awesome, dude.
So, guys, until next time, let us know in the comments what your guys' thought on is Bitcoin. What does Bitcoin mean to you, and how are you surviving this transition? Are you staying out of that collateral damage? If